Hi, this is Scoggett. Hope everybody's doing fine out there. I'm doing real good. Today what I'm doing is I'm doing a story time with Scoggett. And today's story is called Shady Car Salesman. And this story happened like in 1975. And it's really a funny story. And think y'all are going to enjoy it. Back in 1975, of course I was 18 years old back then, I had a 1964 Plymouth. And I was driving down Clovis Road one day, and there was a car dealership on Clovis Road called Honest Orville's Autos. And it's one of these used car dealerships. And it had, like, in big letters, the words, "We tote the note." And there was a black 1959 Cadillac what caught my eye. And I'm thinking he wanted probably anywhere from, like, I can't remember exactly the price, but I think it was $695 or $595 for it. And I drove by and kind of looked at it and decided I'm going to turn around and go, you know, check this car out. Maybe he'll take a trade-in if I decide to buy it, if it's a good car and everything. Because if you've never seen a 1959 Cadillac before, it's a car what really stands out. And I've got a picture of one right here on my computer. That's a 1959 Cadillac. And that's a black one. The one I was looking at was also black. And so I went ahead and pulled into the dealership and got out and went over to where the car was and was looking at it. And the car salesman come out. Now what stands out about this car salesman is he took a fashion risk. Well, he was a walking fashion risk. By that I mean he had like color combinations on him of orange, purple, yellow, green, and blue. That was his clothes. Oh, he had white shoes, by the way. And I mean, he had like the color combinations was it did not go together. This guy, I guess he thought it did. Anyway, he comes out and has a cigar in his mouth, and he says, "Hey, how you doing there, Sonny?" He says, "You looking to buy a good used car?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." I said, this Cadillac kind of caught my eye here. "Oh, it's a good car. It's a good car. Really good." And I said, "Well, it looks pretty decent," which it did. It, you know, had some rough spots on it. But also this dealership, I want to point out, they had some pretty rough looking cars. I mean, it was, they had some cars what, you know, they were pretty rough looking. By rough, I mean dented up and rusted out and, you know, stuff like that. So he says, well, you want to take it for a spin? And he says, "We'll see what we can do to get you into it." And I said, "Well, yeah," I said, let me hear it start and everything, and, you know, we'll go from there." So he goes back inside. He comes out with the key. Now, the car was locked. I couldn't get in to look at it. So he puts the key in the ignition. I mean, into the door to unlock it. And opens the door, and he tells me, he says, "Just go ahead and wait out here for a sec, son." He says, "I'm going to have to start it." And I said, "Okay, that's fine." So he gets in, and he pulls two wires out from under the dash and hits them together. And it doesn't start. It made like a you know, sound. And it doesn't start. And I'm like, "Well, what's up with this?" He's using two wires to start this car. And it wouldn't start, so he says, "Hang on a second." And he said, "I'll be back." So he gets out and goes back to the office, comes back and he's got a paper cup, a white styrofoam paper cup. Walks around and he lifts up the hood. Well, when he lifts up the hood, I noticed that the breather, what holds the air filter, was completely missing, and all what was there was a carburetor. So the carburetor was showing and it had no breather on it. So he moves the little flap on the carburetor, pours a little bit of gas in there, goes around, gets in the car, and hits the two wires together. And the car starts up. And whenever it started up, I noticed that after a few seconds, I heard a sound like there was a knocking sound to it. And so I told him, I said, what's that knocking sound? And he says, I don't hear nothing. I don't hear nothing. And I said, well, it's definitely got a knocking sound to it. And as it ran, the car ran, then it got worse. It went from, a knocking sound like this to a knocking sound like this. And I told him, I said, man, you might want to cut that car off or something, because I said, it's fixing to blow up. And he said, no, it's them lifters there sticking a little bit, but once the oil gets in it, they'll straighten itself out. And speaking of oil, I noticed that out the back tailpipe exhaust, there was blue smoke pouring out. There's nothing but blue smoke. And blue smoke is an indication of the car needing a ring job, that the rings are worn out. And it's eventually the car is going to need a complete overhaul, and I think this one probably needed one. So anyway, he let it run a little bit, and it was just making a racket. And I told him, I said, man, this car is really it's got a bad knock to it. And he says, come here, son. He said, come here. He said, I want to show you something. He said, look. He says, blowing cold air coming through there, cold air. I said, yep, it's blowing cold air. He said, good cold air. He said, it's got a good air conditioner in it. And I said, yeah, but what about the engine? He said, cold air, cold air. And he kept saying that, and I just, was like, wow. And excuse me, I asked him, I said, how long has it been since this car's been ran? Oh, this car is a good car. And he went in and he come out of the car and said, go ahead and take it for a spin. Go ahead and take it for a spin. I said, no, that's okay. I'll go ahead and pass on that. And something else I noticed was the inspection and registration had run out, and the car hadn't been inspected for like 3 years. So, and also the tires were as smooth as a baby's behind. All 4 of them. They were slicks. So he just kept going on about how good of a car this was and everything, and he said, I can make you a good deal. He said I can take that 64 Plymouth of yours, he said, as a trade-in, and he said we can make a deal. And I said, no, I'll go ahead and just keep the Plymouth. And I said, I'll think about it, and if I decide to buy it, I'll go ahead and come back. Well, now, he said, now, this car's not going to last very long. He said, it's a good car, and it might go within the next few hours. And I said, well, okay, well, that's a chance I'll take. And it was just, he was trying everything he could to sell me that car, and it just a funny story. And what really stands out in my mind is the way he was dressed. I mean, it was like he was taking a fashion risk. And just this was just a fun time in my life. And back in the day, before they had the lemon law, these used car dealership would rig up these cars to for a person to buy them, get them off the lot, and then they'd fall apart. And like if the transmission was going bad, they'd put sawdust in the transmission. It'll let it shift just as good as clean as silk for a few days, and then it would mess up. And it would just, they used to rig these up. They'd run this odometer back and did a whole bunch of other shady stuff, but they come out with these lemon laws, and that kind of put a stop to that. I don't think there's a way to run back the odometer anymore on the cars, but back in the day there was a way you could do it. Usually if you went to run it back, a red cover would fall down on the cars back in the day, and it would show that it's been run back, but they figured out a way to get around that. So anyway, hope everybody enjoyed this story. It was fun to tell it and have that memory again. By the way, I didn't buy the car. So this is Scoggett. Appreciate all you viewers and subscribers out there. Y'all continue to stay safe and take care.